as I was looking also at your history, it became obvious to me that you are now a committed
Sadhvi.
sadhvi, the feminine divine, and that as a consequence of that, you have taken vows of monastic renunciation, and you did that 20 years ago. First of all, what inspired you to do that? And given that you came from a completely different environment, completely different ecosystem, where that is almost considered, wow, at a young age, what is she doing? So, can you elaborate? First of all, is this kind of renunciation really crucial for spiritual growth? And did you have challenges?
So first of all, renunciation on this level, the level of the monastic renunciation. So the orange robes are the symbol of, just for all of our beautiful family who aren't aware of that, the orange robes are the symbol of the monastic renunciation. And so it's literally like the equivalent of being a monk or a nun. You take vows of celibacy, vows of simplicity. And first of all, no, it is not necessary at all. Our scriptures are filled with, in fact, if you look at the rishis and the sages and the yogis in our scriptures, very, very few of them are actually renunciants. The vast majority of them are what we would call householders. People living in the world, married people with families. So absolutely it is not necessary. The only thing that's necessary to renounce for a spiritually connected life is your attachment to that which keeps you from living a spiritually connected life. So whether it's the games of the mind, the ego of the mind, whether it's your grudges, your pain of the past, that holds us back much more so than a house or a job. In the scriptures it says so beautifully, man eva manushyanam karanam bandha mokshayo. And it means the mind is the key. The mind is the answer to your liberation or your bondage. So it's not about the clothes you wear. It's not about whether you live in a cave or you live in a mansion or you live in an ashram or you live in a family. As long as you cut ties with that in the mind that binds us, all of our limiting beliefs, all of our anger, all of the grudges, all of the ego. So you said the mind doesn't give solutions, it just gives the problems. That's the only renunciation necessary. However, for some of us, and I am included in that, it's our dharma, our unique dharma, our purpose in life, to actually be monastics. They're people who just, in fulfilling their life purpose, just like some people are meant to be doctors and some people are meant to be musicians and artists and leaders of all kinds. So some of us are meant to be monastic renunciants, not because you have to be for spiritual connection, but just because that's our dharma. And I realized for me, even though if you had asked me, a week before arriving in Rishikesh or even 24 hours before arriving in Rishikesh, what do you think about the idea of being a renunciant? I would have said, what are you, crazy? I was never someone who practiced any kind of austerities. I was never someone who saw value in any kind of abstinence from anything at all. But what happened to me was, after I had that incredibly powerful experience on the banks of Ganga, that experience of opening and healing, I knew this is where I meant to live. And once I started living in the ashram, serving, what I found was very amazing. All of my desires, anything ranging, from bagels to sex and anything in between, literally anything that had been part of my former life, it was gone.
Ganga took it.
Literally.
Ganga took it.
And I didn't even mean to offer it. Like, I was just giving her my anger. I didn't mean, by the way, take how much I love bagels and take my interest in sex, and I didn't mean it. But it happened. And so it wasn't for me actually a process of saying, okay, now I'm going to renounce. The renunciation had happened automatically. It felt like the universe had come through with a dust buster, or like a vacuum cleaner with one of those really narrow sort of attachments into the corners and nooks and crannies, and had just come through me and had kind of sucked out of me any attachment to, desire for, anything that was not going to be readily available in the life that I was living. In the book, of course, as you know, there are moments where that wavered. There were moments where there were desires, where they did arise. And the extraordinary and exquisite practice of meditation, of yoga, of self-awareness actually made me realize how much more I had been offered by the universe. I think about it like if you're walking down the beach and you collect, pretty rocks or seashells because they're shiny and pretty, and you think they're really nice and you're holding on to them. And then at the end of the beach, you see a guy with a bucket full of diamonds. You don't have to convince yourself to let go of the rocks and the seashells. Intuitively, you understand these diamonds are of far more value, and you drop what your hands are full of. And for me, that's really what the renunciation has been, is a letting go of that which no longer held me in any way once I experienced this life that I was given.